All station clear.
560, swinging clear.
Thank you.
Have you ever tried turning a container ship around? It's about as hard as it looks. Forget checking your rearview mirrors. You need a guy in every corner to make sure you don't hit anything. This is when a merchant marine crew can be at their most stressed. You have to pull in lines without getting hurt and without sending the ship flying into the harbor.
Secure everything.
At sea, the captain can cruise on autopilot. Leaving port, he can't. And there are sailboats all around who really don't want to get smushed. This activity, this stress level, this view of Portland are images I'll never forget.
Have a good one.
Why? Because this was the beginning of an 8-day sea-bound adventure to a place so alien, even the sheep that live there can't believe it exists. Before we climb aboard and set sail for Iceland, we need to first load our vessel up with something. In our case, that something is wild blueberry jam. To get some, we're going to a sprawling complex of cottages 45 minutes south of Portland. This is the headquarters for specialty food maker Stonewall Kitchen in York, Maine. Once upon a time in 1991, two guys started selling jam at a farmer's market. They eventually built a big specialty food company, called it Stonewall Kitchen, and sold it for millions of dollars when they decided to retire. Today, the company is headquartered in this complex, complete with a cafe, gift shop, and free samples. It also houses a production facility for many Stonewall products.
I wish we could bring to you how good it smells in here. I think this is as close as you can get to being inside of a blueberry pie while it's being cooked.
I'm here to find out what happens to Maine wild blueberries when they show up at this loading dock. To answer that question, I'm enlisting someone who has intimate knowledge of everything Stonewall Kitchen.
Most CEOs, I imagine, don't have a giant bottle of apple cider vinegar on their desk, but you do.
I do. We're constantly trying new products here at Stonewall Kitchen. One of the sort of hot new products in the market is apple cider vinegar.
CEO is a boring title, which is why I'm calling John Steiker the Chief Executive Fearless Leader of Stonewall Kitchen. He's a Maine guy from up the road in Falmouth, and it's his job to ensure a business built on jam and supported by ghost pepper hot sauce runs smoothly.
Our best-selling product for the last 25 years has been our wild Maine blueberry jam. Maine blueberries are truly unique. They're smaller, more concentrated in flavor. They do pack more antioxidants. It is part of what makes Stonewall Kitchen Maine. We're really Maine focused, and blueberries are a huge part of that.
Do you eat them? Do you like them?
Every day.
Hidden at the center of Stonewall's corporate offices, dressed up in almost historic New England decor, we find the assembly line for the wild blueberry jam we'll be following to Iceland. You can see just about the whole process from beginning to end through the glass.
All right.
But Stonewall's staff was nice enough to let us get a little closer for a few minutes.
What are we going to see here?
So here you'll see we will have already slacked out the blueberries, meaning we'll have taken the frozen blueberries and started to let them thaw closer to room temperature. We'll combine them with just 4 other ingredients for our wild Maine blueberry jam, and then we'll pump them down stainless steel tubes to the production floor. They'll sit in a hot holding tank waiting to fill jars, which will then run through an 8-head filler. I find the filler mesmerizing. 8 jars at a time will move under, stop, they'll clink together, and then on cue, product will pour into them, fill up to the exact same level every time, and off it will go. And so in the same way that I can look at a fireplace for a long period of time and just be fascinated by it, I can watch our filler.
From the filler, the jars of molten blueberry goo scurry along to a capping machine and a pasteurizer cooler so they can be handled safely. That's where they emerge like little people rushing out of a Broadway theater after a show.
So we fill the jar at about 185 degrees, which is too hot to handle, obviously. And in the pasteurizer cooler, we'll cool it down over about a 20-minute period to about 110 degrees. In that process, we'll also pasteurize the product and create a vacuum which will pull down on the cap, and that way when you open a jar and you hear that pop,
That's the pop.
you're releasing a vacuum that's been created in that cooler. From there, it will come around to a fairly unique labeler that we have for our square jars. We'll actually hand pack it into boxes, which is our last quality control step. We have a lot of automated checks for those as well, but we like having a real person look at them before they go into the box. From the box, they go back to our warehouse here in York, Maine, and then that day or the next day, they'll go off to Dover, New Hampshire, which is our warehouse from which they'll then go to all of our customers.
Portland's International Marine Terminal is busier than ever. Drive by the cement heath and you'll see towering stacks of containers. Some are empty, some are full, and all of them are going somewhere, even when they're standing still. Since 2013, this port has been the U.S. headquarters for Icelandic shipping company Eimskip. Vessels are showing up here every week now to be loaded with containers and sent back to Europe, over and over and over again. Boats don't magically appear at the dock. They have to make a careful journey through a busy working harbor without running over people out for a Sunday cruise. I wanted to know how these big boats navigate from open water to the dock, and found the Mainers who do just that.
Very few people have any clue what we do. And I don't mean that as a negative thing. You know, if I walk into Maine Hardware, what's your account that you have with us? I say Portland Pilots. And they say, oh, what kind of airplane do you fly? No, we're a sea pilot.
As if he didn't make it clear enough, Captain Mark Klopp does not fly a jet. He's the owner of Portland Pilots, a small company that sends experts on local navigation onto various big boats coming into Portland Harbor. On this particular day, we went out into open water to meet the ship Kirk, myself, and some wild blueberry jam would be on for the 8-day trip to Iceland.
My job is to make sure this vessel gets to that dock safely. In a nutshell. Yeah. There are 2 pilot boarding areas. We have the Eastern Approach, Witch Rock pilot boarding area. It's from our dock, it's 8 miles. And you can see the Eimskip ship right there on the horizon.
That dock got bigger and bigger and bigger and seemed to be moving faster and faster, though it was slowing down.
Container vessel left Ava, Portland Pilots on 16.
Within minutes, we were pulling alongside the EF Ava, the 424-foot-long container ship Kirk and I would call home for 8 days. She looked smart, dressed in black and white paint that seemed in some ways like formal wear. Radars spinning, engine easing, the Ava started to glide into Casco Bay.
Roger, understood.
On the pilot boat, the calm was breaking. The safety gear goes on. The people designated to get on the ship and navigate from the bridge start to mentally and physically prepare to board. And with a loud, scrappy bang, we're alongside the ship, now looming above us like a cliff. That's where Captain Mark and most of his partners left us, as they went up a little rope ladder, leaving Captain Dan and me behind.
The same scenario on a thick of fog day, you definitely need all your eyes on the bridge, observing and experience.
Moments after a ship's arrival, the shore team at Portland's International Marine Terminal gets busy, loading and unloading. One by one, containers are sorted, lifted, removed, shoved, slid, and placed delicately in a highly organized process. But what's in these boxes, and who wants whatever's in them? What does all this activity mean for Maine's economy? The man with the answers to those questions is port facilitator David Arnold.
David, tell me about your first time coming down here.
That would have been back in 2009. This was still a snow impound facility for the city of Portland and had no regular container service. And most of what you see now in terms of the infrastructure and the containers wasn't here. It's inspiring. It's really been amazing to watch basically something come from nothing.
While technically not a port employee, David's hired to make sure various port functions happen as smoothly as possible. He quite literally walked us through what it takes to get the EF Ava ready to head back to Reykjavik.
What you're seeing right now is the discharge of the vessel. They are taking containers off the boat, putting them on trucks so that they can be staged in the yard. And then later on, trucks will come in to pick up those containers and take them to their final destination.
How long does this go on for? Is it an all-day affair?
Typically, this takes about 2 days, and usually anywhere from 13 to 18 hours of operations. Iceland's an island. Everything that gets there comes by boat or by ship.
So you have to answer the big, obvious question, which is when did Stonewall Kitchen start selling to Iceland?
About 6 years ago, I got an email from a lady who inquired about importing Stonewall Kitchen, and it was a cold call, really. She had lived in Washington, D.C. for a while and became familiar with the brand.
Carol Deeney is Stonewall Kitchen's Director of International Sales. She's the person who built the bridge between the company and Iceland. Basically, whatever happens to us from here on out is her fault. Not really, but she's the logistical brain that gets jams, jellies, and queso from Maine into stores around the world. As she sort of just explained, Stonewall Kitchen's Iceland connection began with an email from a fan who became the company's first distributor there.
This was in 2012, and she had the brand for a couple of years and thoughtfully continued to grow it. At one point, she ended up taking over her parents' chocolate shop and turned it over to our now distributor, who has really thoughtfully placed it in some additional stores. It's become one of our top accounts and one of our top locations.
After it's packed in a container and shipped to Portland, Stonewall's Iceland-bound wild blueberry jam is loaded onto one of 3 boats, including EF Ava. Each week, for 24 to 36 hours, the loading and unloading repeats, the physical manifestation of proverbial supply and demand. The Maine International Trade Center says 17,500 containers passed through this port in 2017 with a value of $503 million. On this trip, the EF Ava took from Friday afternoon to Sunday to be loaded, but eventually the work of the lifters, crane operators, and truck drivers was done for a few days. A new load of cargo belonged to the EF Ava and its crew.
It's very important, yeah? Life jacket for both persons is here, yeah? If emergency, you will
Go up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it and go outside. This public addresser system, yeah?
The cargo was in the crew's hands, and shortly after a day's worth of loading, so were we. This is Chief Officer Dmitry Ivanovs. He's originally from Russia, and when he's not working, has a house and family in Latvia. But when he's on the EF Ava, he's the highest-ranking officer under the captain. The day of our departure, Dmitry was our orientation leader and showed us all the safety procedures we hoped we wouldn't need on the voyage to Iceland.
When everybody inside, security boss, Captain give order. We close the door. Let's go, guys. This master station, yeah? 1, 2, 3 for all crew members, yeah? Everybody take place. Okay, everybody there? Yeah. Let's go, guys, yeah? For each person, emergency suite. This emergency suite must be used with safety life jacket, yeah? Don't forget bring your life jacket and cabin, yeah? If not possible to drop down the lifeboat, we can use life raft. We hope it's not will be necessary, yeah? You must know it.
I'm pinching my lip partially because it's also sinking in. We're really going to Iceland.
Be careful, watch your step.
Up to the bow we went, learning about anchors.
Port and starboard, we have two.
And after stepping carefully over the lines, we checked out the cargo office to look at the ballast system that keeps the ship upright while underway.
Ballast.
Eventually, the safety check blended straight into a real get-to-know-the-boat orientation, with a stop in the galley where we'd have all our meals.
Officer mess is 2 places for you, yeah? If you miss your time, get your deposit, put to microwave, yeah? It's easy.
That easy.
Our final initiation ritual took place up on the bridge, the so-called brain of the ship, where it's driven from.
Welcome.
This is where we got a radio and officially became part of Dmitry's seafaring family.
You can keep it in cabin and read what's going on around, yeah? For example, pilot on board or something like that, yeah?
Pilot number 2, Chief.
Negative, Captain. I present radio for our friends, yeah?
With that, we were ready to depart. We unpacked our motion sickness bands,
Position and enjoy your travel.
watched the crew let go of the lines,
Here's Dustin getting gorgeous shots.
took some last pictures of home, and with the harbor pilot on board, for real this time,
Container vessel EF Ava is underway from the International Marine Terminal.
fired up the bow thrusters, took one last look at Portland Head Light, and headed to the open Atlantic. You may be wondering what our cabin looked like, where we went to the bathroom, what we ate, and we'll talk about all of that in the next episode of Ship Me Out.